Welcome to the back pain webinar. I hope you get a lot of information from this. And if you do have any questions following what I go through in this short talk, please contact the team, please speak to your chiropractor or a member of staff, and we'll be able to help you further. But hopefully the information that you get from it will be helpful for you to get a better understanding of what back pain is and how you can manage it. But just remember that everybody's case is unique, everybody's case is individual. So what we go through is relatively generic and it should work for the most. But if you are continuing to struggle, just speak to your chiropractor. So without further ado, I'll load up the webinar and we'll get going. So you should now be able to see my screen with the webinar on it. And if I just open this up, you should be able to see it fully. Okay, so this webinar was done live in conjunction with my colleague, Lewis. So Lewis gave a lot of useful input into that webinar, but unfortunately we didn't record it at the time. So you've got me to go through it, and hopefully it will give you some really good information. Why back pain 101? Because 101 means we want to chuck it in the bin, and we certainly want to put back pain in the bin for the most of us. So if we ask ourselves that first question, what is back pain? I think really to get an honest answer of this, we need to break it down into two individual questions. And those two individual questions are, what is the back? And then what is pain? And from that, we can get a better understanding of what we're dealing with and therefore what we can do to improve it. So if we have a think about what is the back? So the back is essentially your spine. And our spine sits behind us. And because it sits behind us, we pay very little attention to it. We neglect it. It gives us some discomfort. We put it to the side and we carry on. Our spine is not just from our shoulders down to our bum, it's also our neck included. So you see the colors on this picture here. If you look at the very top, that yellow part, that's your neck, also known as the cervical spine. There are 7 bones that make that area up. You have the mid-back, which is the orange bit, and that's called your thoracic spine, of which there are 12 bones that make that up. And then you have the green bit at the bottom, which is your lumbar spine, and there are 5 bones that make that up. And then sitting beneath that, as adults, the bones of the base fuse, the sacrum, and the coccyx. In children, there is still some relative mobility in there. Everybody's spine is prone to deviations from the normal. So we get normal variants, which are relatively common. Some people have 6 lumbar vertebrae, some people have 4. Some people have wedge-shaped vertebrae that can be from birth or from trauma. Some people have fusions, some people have different variants. So when we're working with you, if we think that that's the case, we obviously take x-rays to determine that and therefore give you the most appropriate care. But the most important thing to remember about your spine is its function. Its function is to protect the spinal cord. The spinal cord being an extension of your brain and therefore an extremely important part of your body. Now, as I'm sure you know, nothing in your body, from the movement of your toes to the movement of your mouth to speak, the beating of your heart, the digestion of your food, nothing happens without the brain telling it to do so. And the only way the brain can deliver that message to move your big toe is down through your spine, through that spinal cord, and out to the nerves that exit. The only way the brain can tell you to be digesting the food that you ate this morning is through the spine, the spinal cord. So we have to understand that the spine is protecting one of the most vital functions of your body, the spinal cord. And therefore, when we're working with it, we have to respect that. So when we're understanding what the back is, it is the protector of the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord. Any misalignments in your skull, you'd certainly have concerns for your brain. So any misalignments in your back, there may be some indication that there's underlying concern for your spinal cord. If you're a little bit squeamish, I just recommend that you maybe look through your fingers at this next picture. But this is having a look at what that spine really looks like. Now, if you've ever been to the Bodyworks expedition, there used to be in London, I'm not sure if it's still there. It's definitely in Amsterdam. It's a fantastic, fantastic exhibition to go and look at. If you look at this picture on your left of the screen, that person hunched and slouching forwards, you'll notice running down the middle is a line. And that line is the spinal cord. And you'll notice at the very top, it's extending from the base of the brain. That's only an inch or so within your back. So touch the surface of the skin on your lower back. You're only going in about an inch and you've got that spinal cord. You'll notice how beside it, there's lots of other sort of yellowy type stringy material, and that's the nerves that are exiting. And then if you look at the picture on your right-hand side, you'll notice the brain, and this is really focusing on that neck. And the neck being the most important area, because in there are the nerves that control every single function of your entire body. And you'll see that coming out of the spine, there's like those string sort of sweets, the string sort of red candy things you can get coming out either side. And they are the nerves that come out of the neck from the spinal cord. Now, they'll be controlling things like the neck and the shoulders, but also things like the thyroid and the heart. So it's extremely important, as I said before, that we know what we're dealing with, so that when we're thinking about the spine, the back, we have to know of its importance. Because if the back is then giving us pain, is the pain the real problem? Or is the pain simply like a fire alarm telling that there's a deeper problem going on? And that's what I want to discuss now, is what is pain? So I remember being a kid, and this thing, the iron, was on the side counter. And I vividly remember my mum saying, "Don't touch the iron." And it's one of those old irons, that had the circles, the very regular round circles all through it. And I remember going straight up to one of those circles with my finger and popping it straight on that area. And I still remember the welt and the raise that it put on this finger afterwards. And I touched that iron, and it was painful, really painful. Or was it hot? Was it painful or was it hot? If you've ever been in a really cold shower, you've stepped in and it was painful. Or was it cold? So my question then is, well, what is pain? Is pain simply a message that's serving us? Or is it that thing that's uncomfortable to us? You see, when you get into the neurology and you actually look at the nerves, pain and temperature are the same thing in the human body. Pain and temperature are the same thing, just different thresholds. So pain is really a message with intent. It's a message from your body to your brain to tell you to do something. For instance, when I touched that hot iron, what did I immediately do? I recoiled. I didn't keep my finger on there because the brain had received the message of pain, stop, move, arm. So with that said, is pain a good thing or a bad thing? Now, I know you might be in pain and say, this is really sucks and it's bad. But why is it sucking? Why is it bad? Is it telling you something's not right? Is it asking you to do something to avoid what created the problem in the first place? I heard a great saying once. It said, you cannot medicate your way out of a problem that you behaved your way into. You cannot medicate your way out of a problem that you behaved your way into. So is there a behavior that's led to the pain? Sitting too much. Is there a behavior that's led to the pain? Doing too much in the gym? Is there a behavior that's led to the pain? The wrong food choices? And yes, we can work to try and reduce or get rid of the pain. But just like taking the batteries out of a fire alarm, has it truly fixed it? So what I wanted to do is go through those few examples at the start of this talk to show you that when we're thinking about back pain, we have to take it very seriously. Your back is your spine is protecting your spinal cord is controlling the life of your body. And pain is the warning that something is wrong with that system. And if something is wrong with that system, that is a danger to how your body is functioning. So let's take that a step further and go through what might cause back pain. Now, these are the three most common causes of back pain with my 12 to 15 years of meandering experience. And it's not always the big issues that cause the problems. A lot of people come in, they just pick that letter up off the floor and their back went. I was just tying my shoelaces and my back went. I just went to put something in the bin and my back went. Normally very innocuous. Like the straw that broke the camel's back, it's been building up for a period of time. So the three most common causes are sedentary lifestyle, inflammatory diet, and trauma. Sitting too much really does have a huge impact on your spine. Your spine is controlling everything in your body, and that compressive load over time leads to that wear and tear. If you've ever had an X-ray of your spine, you said, oh, you've got degeneration of your spine or your neck, degeneration of your neck, they will normally say the levels of L5S1 have got degeneration. My question is why? Because they're the very bottom level of the spine, and therefore all that compressive load has gone onto them. If the degeneration was just an aging process, then every single one of the 24 bones of your spine would degenerate at the same rate. If you had an X-ray of your neck, they normally say C6, C7 is degenerate. Why? Because that's the very base of the neck that's been under the compressive load. So sedentary lifestyles really, really do create the most havoc in our spine. There was a study done in Australia. Have a think about this for a second. How long do you think the average Australian stands for in a 24-hour day? How long do you think the average Australian is standing up in a 24-hour day? The answer was 45 minutes. Just 45 minutes. I mean, you can imagine it. They get up in the morning. They've been lying down for hours in bed. They get up. They walk downstairs. They sit down to have their breakfast. They then go and sit down on the loo. They then sit down in the car on the way to work. They then sit down at work. They sit down in the car on the way back from work, and they sit down on the TV and watch on the sofa and watch TV. And then they go to bed and lie down again. All day, sitting or lying. They've shown that historic hunter-gatherer, the Neanderthal that we came from, was walking about 10 miles a day. Our body is designed for that movement, not that sedentary lifestyle. We then have inflammatory diets, which cause big problems. So things like sugar and refined foods increase the inflammation in your body. And if you have an injury or susceptibility to something, it's going to make that worse. For example, I have old injuries in my spine. And if I have I'm recording this just after the Christmas period. If we've just had Christmas gone, my back flares up. Why? Because I'm eating more sugary foods, which increases the inflammation within my body, which then causes the problem to come to the forefront. And then trauma. The car crashes, the falls on the ice, the bumps, the scrapes. Not very common. So the question then comes, what can you do about it? And it's as simple as this. Move more, reduce inflammation, and increase your resilience so that when that trauma does come, your body's better able to cope. So by moving more, my suggestion would be at least 2 10-minute walks a day. My suggestion would be at least 2 10-minute walks a day. It's not a lot. It's 20 minutes out of the day. That could be you park your car on the drive in the evening, you walk to the end of the road and back before you go in the house. You get up in the morning, you walk around the block before you go to work. Now, we can say I don't have time, but I would say if you don't give time now, the problem will get you in the future. If you look at the studies, it's quite clear that at any one time, 10% of the population has back pain. And throughout a lifetime, 90% of us will get it. So it's almost inevitable. So what can you do to reduce that risk? Move more. NASA did a study. They showed that just by standing up and sitting down every 20 minutes, just stand up and sit back down, you put 3 quality years in your life. 3 quality years in your life just by standing up and sitting down. How simple is that to do? So moving more is essential, and it doesn't need to be anything aggressive or anything overtly strenuous. You just need to move the body. So a simple way to combat the discomfort is to get up and move. Another thing that's very interesting and important about moving is if you've ever bumped your arm, remember you bumped your arm when you were younger and your mother came over, and what's the first thing she did? She would rub the area to make it feel better. Mother rubs it better. It's actually called pain gate control theory. And what happens is if we get a painful area and we rub it, we release local endorphins in the area that numb the pain signals going to our brain. If we bump our arm and we rub the area, we release local endorphins and kephalin and adrenaline that block the pain signals going to the brain. So if you've got a problem with your back, simply by marching on the spot, you're getting gentle motion into that area, stimulating that release of enkephalin and blocking those signals that are going to the brain. So as well as movement, marching on the spot gently can be a real benefit. We then want to reduce inflammation, and we all know what's good for us and what's bad for us with our diet. The simplest thing here, if you want to reduce inflammation, is increase your water. Benefit to the previous slide, if you're increasing your water, you need to go to the loo more, and therefore you're moving more. If it's in a packet or it's processed, it's bad for you, full stop. If it's fresh and you've had to make it, it's good for you. Increase the color, the variation of color in your vegetables, because this will increase the phytonutrient levels in there and help reduce inflammation. And make sure that you're getting some good fats and some good proteins to help repair the body. We've done other talks on nutrition, but it's the simple stuff. Fresh, raw, if you can, organic, will help reduce inflammation in the body as well as increase the water. And then the last thing is resilience. Your body is going to come under some level of trauma at some point in your life. You might have to sit for work. You might slip on the ice. You might be involved, God forbid, in a car crash. How can you make your body more resilient so that when that time does come, your body can better able to cope with it? Some of that comes through strengthening exercises for the core and mobility of the spine. For me, I like to think of functional strength of the spine. What is it meant to be doing when it's being used? So a lot of people do planks and side bends, and these things don't really create functional stability in the spine. So the simplest exercise I give people is to lunge. Just by lunging up and down the living room, one foot in front of the other, lunging forwards and back, tensing your tummy as you do so, is creating a core stability around an action that is very normal, which is movement, lunging, bending, and walking. So simple things like that can really, really help. But the best way to create resilience in the body is to get your spine in the right posture and position, and that is working with a therapist, whether it's chiropractors at Epoch or another therapist, to get the alignment in your spine right. Now, this really was highlighted by some studies done in the American football world, where they showed that if the spine had lost its normal curvature, so spine from the side, if we look at your body from side on, it's meant to have curvatures in the spine. If your spine is very straight as you look at it from side on, think of a ballet dancer, it loses its ability to absorb any shock. So what they found is these American footballers who were sustaining injury, head impact injury, who did not have the curvature in their spine, there was an increase not just in morbidity, so injury, but there was also an increased risk of mortality in those people following that injury. Remember, your spine is protecting your spinal cord, extremely important part of your body. If it doesn't have the resilience to protect it, it's going to damage it. So to improve your resilience, yes, work on simple strengthening exercises. Better than any strengthening exercises is the first slide of just simply moving and reducing inflammation. But see a chiropractor who's going to help you realign that spine and correct it. So I hope this webinar has been useful for you. I hope you've got some good information from it. If you do have any questions that come up following that, then please contact the team or ask your chiropractor at your next visit, and they can help you more specifically with maybe your nutrition or some exercises that you should be doing. But in simple terms, get up, get moving, drink more water, and stay strong so that that part of your body, that spine that is protecting your spinal cord, that's controlling how your body functions, can work to the best of its ability so you can achieve the best health.